Good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. Becca, would you please call the roll?
Flournoy. Hallie.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Council, any additions to this evening's agenda? Okay, if not, we'll move to our consent agenda. We have approval of minutes from the November 26th council meeting, approval of the November 30th payroll of $137,406.13, approval of the November 7th special payroll of $1,143.41, approval of the November 16th payroll, $137,580.97. We have approval of the minutes for the library board, approval of the wayfinding commission minutes, and we will approval for the USDA Step 1 debt in the amount of $12,975, approval of the CoBank interim financing debt of $18,017.33, approval of general obligation debt in the amount of $134,388.75, approval of the state revolving fund debt in the amount of $68,351.25. We have a resolution of employment in the water department, approval of liquor licenses for La Hacienda, and approval of total claims in the amount of $1,387,000, $387,518.21. We have one claim above $75,000, which is to PKG Contracting, $934,859.69. Any questions regarding any of those consent agenda items? Not entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Thompson.
Second.
Second by Rasmussen. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Thompson.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, council, we'll move to our public appearances. First will be Dan Miller, the Jefferson County Environmental Health Commissioner, and it is National Radon Month once again. Coming up.
Evening.
Good evening.
So I see you have a full agenda. I'll keep this brief, but I appreciate and thank the council and the mayor for proclaiming January as Radon Action Month for the past several years. The Environmental Health Department has been promoting Radon Action Month for 12 years by handing out free radon test kits and putting out PSAs, posters, and a display board at the library for the month of January. Radon is a colorless, odorless, radioactive gas that comes from the natural breakdown of uranium in the soil. It can get into any type of building. Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer in the U.S., accounting for 21,000 deaths annually. Last January, I handed out 50 kits and received 58 results. 48% were high, which is in keeping with the past results, where about 50% of the results were high. The EPA action level is 4 picocuries per liter of air, which is equivalent to smoking 8 cigarettes a day. There have been readings as high as 59 picocuries per liter of air in Jefferson County. The Kiwanis Club donated funds again this year for 50 radon test kits, which I will start giving out on January 2nd between 9 and noon at the Environmental Health Office to people who haven't tested before or who had high readings. Radon can be mitigated, so prevention is easy, but the only way to know if you have radon is to test for it. The Environmental Health Department and many other state and federal departments recommend that everyone test for radon. Thank you. Any
Hey,
questions?
Dan, how often should someone test for radon? If you've had a good reading, when's the next
If you've
time
had a
you
good
do it?
reading, then unless you make some changes to the house, the structure of the house, or if we have a very dry year and the earth cracks, then it's probably a good idea to test again.
Okay. All right, thank you, Dan. Anyone have any questions? Okay. Not entertain a motion to approve the proclamation declaring January 2019 Radon Action Month for Fairfield.
So moved.
Moved by Gandy.
Second.
Second by Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay, next, council, Mike Shipler would like to address you about our city towing contract. Mike?
Hi, I'm Mike Shipler. I got Mike's Towing and Recovery. A little bit about myself. We're operating out of 2 locations, out of 600 Liberty Street, Batavia, and 809 West Low Avenue here in Fairfield. We have a secure facility for cars for holding them and stuff there. I got a guy helping me. He's Rodney Ritz. He's formerly employed by the late Dick Greenfield. We're both experienced service providers, and I have a fleet of 2 wreckers and 2 rollbacks, 2 medium-duty rollbacks. One's I'm in the process right now of upgrading my fleet to phase out my older truck. I've bought another rollback there, but I work with motor clubs like for your insurance, like if you had towing insurance, or like AARP and GM Roadside Service, Ford, AAA, or a AAA service provider. We got a good customer base. We work for local garages here in town, like Bob's Automotive and Kessel's and Elite Tire and Auto, both the tire shops and the body shops too. We tow into both them, and they've called me and had me go to Iowa City or Des Moines, pick up a car for them and bring it back. And I'm currently on the list here with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department and also with the Fairfield Police Department. I'm on the list like a rotation every other call, and I'm on the list with the Iowa State Patrol. I'm married. I got 4 kids, and I'm a Desert Storm veteran. Also a former council member. I did
Batavia
that for
council
8
member?
years, but I don't care to do that anymore. Well, the reason for me showing up, I was got some questions about the new. Last week, I talked to Police Chief Dave Thomas, and the city was going to be adopting or could be adopting a towing contract, which would pick one towing company as their sole provider. I got some questions on how to bid for that. My attorney's supposed to be getting hold of you, and we'll get some more answers. I need what do they call that? Request for proposal, what you guys are wanting for sure. But I guess what I'm and I'm totally willing to make my contract and show it to you. There were some good things we discussed, Chief Thomas and I there. It could save time and money, and his officers and dispatchers both, by us taking over the abandoned vehicle process, which I would be willing to do that and save you guys money and having to pay me for abandoned vehicles. Save them time, and they don't have to do the paperwork. If they would allocate the authority for me to do so, that would be fine with me.
Could I ask Chief of Police to describe where he is in his process right now with the contract? So, Chief, could you tell us when you're going to make a decision and what you're...
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was kind of a strange procedure all around. I've leaned on the city administrator and the city attorney on several questions. We've worked a rotation between both companies. we have had a few issues in the past, but they were quickly addressed, very minor issues with any private company response time. And they've been quick to respond. The other tow company reached out originally. We didn't solicit a contract from either company. We didn't ask. We hadn't even considered it until the other tow company contacted us with a contract. The extreme benefits of the contract for us are a lot of time saved that they're willing to do for us that are taking 2 dispatchers. We estimate probably an hour a week, at least, they're spending on paperwork. The other company offered to do that paperwork. On top of that, waive a lot of the fees that the tow company. So it more was just because of the fiscal responsibility of spending the taxpayers' money. We have dispatchers that are spending time to do this, plus we're having to spend extra money when a vehicle it's towed and abandoned. The other company offered to waive those fees and then just do the paperwork themselves. So it was kind of a win-win, but we did think it was fair, trying to be transparent with government, and kind of being in a strange area. We're not spending taxpayers' money. It's a private company that are contracting through us. We did reach out to Mike's Towing and just advised them that we'd been given this offer. Gave them the opportunity, and we're still in that process of them also being able to get a contract to us, and whichever is more beneficial with the city. But we have not made any determination. We're in the process now of Mike's attorney, Mr. Miller, has been tied up in court, and definitely understand that, working in the legal system, how time-consuming court is. So they've been given a 2-week extension to get their contract to us, but that's where we're in the process. I talked to Mike a couple times since, and it's tough for me because we try to make sure our dispatchers are doing dispatching. So when a private company reaches out and offers to help without a charge, of course, the benefit then is we sign a contract with them and they get all the tows just for the Fairfield Police Department. But now I'm not spending the taxpayers' money on dispatchers doing this type of paperwork. This is the amount of paperwork for one vehicle that the state requires for them to reimburse us. So it's not, I'm not over exaggerating. We spent a lot of wasted money this is just for one vehicle. So right now we're considering, it's not going to be an easy decision. And
So Chief, are you planning to go with one provider, or if both meet your criteria in your request for proposal, would you stay on a rotation if they're both providing the same service?
my assumption is they're going to request that we sign a contract. I assume both companies are going to say, if we're going to spend this extra money, take it off the police department, and we're going to now have to have staff do this much paperwork, then we're going to have a contract that we solely utilize them. So there wouldn't be the rotation. Mm-hmm. That's the benefit that they're offering. And you know, the other company, you know, they're kind of gambling. If there's a lot of vehicles towed, they're going to make some money. If there isn't a lot of vehicles towed, and we never know how many vehicles we're going to tow, if there's a lot of vehicles abandoned, they're probably going to lose money on it. So it's.
And is that for every call that comes in or every instance where a vehicle needs to be towed?
Just for the police department.
Right.
Obviously, of course, the sheriff's office gets to determine if they decide to sign a contract with somebody, or if they want to continue with the two tow company rotation. Sir.
Does that explain where the process is now?
Yes, I hadn't talked to Paul Miller. He hadn't got back with me yet. I left a message and he hadn't returned my call, so I didn't know exactly where we was.
So it's your intention to try and meet that same level of service?
Yes, I would definitely be willing to do the paperwork. I do that on my own anyway. if it was done on private property, and you have to send out notices, and it'd be the same procedure.
Mr. Mayor?
That's just on the abandoned vehicle ones.
Yes.
If they claim their vehicle, it's not a problem, but if, that's the only.
Okay.
I also think that, well, I don't, I would rather, I think you could have 2 contracted providers and you'd benefit from that. Like if one's busy or we're out of town, you would have to have extra staff to cover the area. So, I think a guy could benefit by having 2 contracted providers, and you could have the same requirements
Sure.
for the contract, or even like we was to pay a fee to operate, that the city would benefit from that, and then you'd allow us to, for the city, it would be the same across the board for both companies, so you could even gain by, I would offer doing, meeting that requirement. I was gonna probably put that in my contract anyway, but I
Okay.
didn't know where to
Okay.
begin.
Let me invite a question from Councilwoman Anderson.
This is a question for Chief Thomas. I was just
Yes,
going to
ma'am.
ask, in a community the size that we live in, where the towing companies, are staffing local guys with local families, and not, we're not a city towing company. Is it maybe not in our benefit to keep them both on hand for things like snowstorms, rainy days, holidays, where we're
And
not
that's-
relying on one company to man a blizzard?
Yeah, that's been our struggle, because before we didn't have any control. We've had up to 3 or 4 companies. A couple of the companies said it wasn't work with this rotation, and went back to what they were doing before.
I just have concerns about going with one company where we might get stranded, no pun intended, we might get stranded in a blizzard condition, or whatever, rain, ice, snow, where if we're relying on one company that are pulling from a couple local guys, are we gonna be waiting even longer to get tows done?
The 2 companies we deal with, as Mike's already explained, we've been they're one of the bigger 2 in the city, and
Okay.
it's just not towing. We're not a big enough city to have just towing. They're both repair shops of some type, and that's really where they. I talked to Mike before. I've also talked to RPM about it. Response time, our officers can't be sitting out there, so if they're unavailable, they do. And both businesses have been excellent about having other staff there to cover. Each company has multiple tow vehicles, like Mike said, tow trucks, rollbacks, and they'll usually respond 1 or 2 vehicles. The other thing, just so everybody's aware, that won't change, by our policy, the officer, the first thing, if it's somebody that's been in an accident, somebody that is under arrest, by our policy, we first ask if the owner or driver of the vehicle has a preference on a tow company. And it can be any tow company. If they want it to sit there from one to come from Des Moines, a lot of times they say, I don't have a preference, and that's when we kick in our rotation. So if whatever company is not on our list, but they are a AAA provider, or the person requested, we definitely call them at the owner or driver's request.
But in the instance where you have a contract with one company and that happens, does your contract state that they have rights to every tow opportunity that's outside of a customer preference?
That's an excellent question. Our policy is still going to state it will have to be this way, because it's our policy. Obviously the person responsible for that vehicle gets first choice. So if they aren't comfortable with, we only kick our rotation in, or if we sign a contract with that person, if the person says, I really don't care, it's my vehicle, usually they can't drive it because it's damaged, or they're not valid to drive. If they always get contract or not, they'll get first choice. So,
Okay. A first choice, but
A lot of
There
times,
would be an open, yeah, okay,
more than 50% of the time, they just have no preference.
okay.
Yes, sir.
So anyway, it sounds like you're in communication, your attorney will finish up your contract proposal, and then the chief will make his decision. And is it a one-year term, chief, that the contract is being signed for? Or is it?
We've kind of left it up to them to stipulate if they want a 1 year. I think the one I looked at was every year both parties can reevaluate, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any other points, sir?
No, that pretty well does it. I do think that I asked you to just consider having the two if it would meet all the criteria. We'll see
Okay.
when my lawyer finishes up, and we'll be in touch. But thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Council, any other questions for the chief? Points? Thank you. Next, we'll move on to an annual report from the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center. Russell Lippincott.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd first like to acknowledge I've been doing these for 10 years and never have I had this many board members here. So I would just like to take a minute and recognize my board members. There's a handful of them. So if you want to raise your hand if you're on the board, let the council know. So
Thank you for coming. We're honored.
This is an opportunity. I always enjoy this opportunity to get before you and tell you how the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center is doing. And this annual report covers our 10-year anniversary. And it was quite a celebration. We did it a year ago, September. And you can imagine not only 10 years of operations, but all the years of planning. It was quite a celebration. Susan and Sally, we have one of our founders here. You know, it's finally getting to be that place that everyone envisioned back in the 90s when they started talking about it. So I'm grateful to be part of it. 200 people came together, and there was a lot of highlights from the center's history. Remember when we had this show, remember when we did this, and it was a lot of fun. So other things I want to talk about, we have our flagship performance series called the Sondheim Artist Series. And last year, we, as I said, it was our 10-year anniversary. So we had 18 performances in our season, 10 of which were sold out. So, you know, we finally are getting closer to knowing that mix, you know, and it's a difficult market. I mean, if you think about, we have to be as diverse as the market we serve, from ag, university, manufacturing, you know, younger people, older people. So we've really made a concerted effort to have that variety. And we've made a concerted effort to really promote outside of Fairfield. And I'm pleased to say the pendulum has changed. 68% of the people that attend our performances are from outside of Jefferson County, outside of 52556, outside of Fairfield. That's 32% coming from Fairfield. And that's really the bread and butter when the new money comes in from outside. You know, they not only just come to the show, but more often than not, they take in a restaurant, stop and get fuel, go shopping. You know, it seems like every performance I hear of a story of a couple that came from 2 hours away, or they spent the day in Fairfield. So it's finally happening. So there are highlights of the sold out shows. I'm sure some of you were in attendance. This year also saw our creation of the Fairfest at the Sondheim series, and it was really we wanted to continue the successes that the group had of the outdoor festival, and we learned there that, you know, this is a tough business. This is tough. It not only takes a lot of manpower, but it takes a lot of money to put together a culturally inspired festival. But our first year, I think we hit home runs with Ricky Skaggs, sold out performance, and then we had a bluegrass group, two bluegrass shows, and I have to say, I've seen a lot of shows in the Sondheim, from orchestras to chamber music to comedy, but never have I seen the fun that was had with the Jeff Austin Band and the Travel McCourys. There was dancing and people getting up. I shouldn't say this to the chief of police, but guys, you know, there were the body surfing being thrown over it was a wild night that night. Good thing you weren't there, Chief.
You do have a bar too, so we did.
How do you know I wasn't there?
One of the things, you know, over the last 10 years, we've really talked about why the center was built. And one of the core pillars is to give our performing community, our friends and neighbors, the opportunity to be stars on the stage. And last year, once again, we gave ample opportunities from Fairfield area community theaters, A Christmas Story, Coming Home, Coming Together, which showcases Iowa or Fairfield's homegrown talent, Fairfield Productions, the movie series that you're all aware of, Diwali, the Indian celebration of light, this local dance studio. And as someone who has absolutely no talent, it's fun to watch those that you know that are your friends up there having talent, and the bright lights on them, and to especially the kids. When we see the kids come off stage and they're just brimming from ear to ear, that's why we do what we do. So that's really a strong cornerstone of why we do what we do. Some of the event highlights, and I will tell you that we in this fiscal year we had 395 events. So that's a lot. And then if you take in the 50 performances that we had over 52,000 people walk through the doors at the convention center, and it's 364 days a year. We're closed on one day, and that's Christmas Day. But over the years, we've had events every day other than Christmas Day. You can see some of the highlights. I always like to focus on some of the things that bring people in from outside. The Gazette newspaper out of Cedar Rapids brought in a women in business luncheon. Shriner's Ball from Ottumwa came. My favorite name of an event, the Northside Strippers Quilt Show. MUM, which got the grant to do their business consulting, used us as their location. So, it's taken 10 years, but I feel like we're really finally integrating into not only Southeast Iowa, but we're having wedding receptions, we're having training sessions from people from outside the area that have just heard of our facility and are utilizing it. So, and of course we do our farm show. And I'm always looking for new ideas and new things to do. One of the things, I look at Darren and I'm thinking the pool tournament. So we're always trying to reinvent ourselves, whether it be the type of performance we're coming in. And I'm often asked, how do you decide what kind of shows to do, or how do you decide on the events? Well, ticket sales are indicative of demand, and I'm always taking advice and suggestions from people. And that's one thing I want to make sure that the council knows, that although we are a private nonprofit organization, we are about as tuned into the community as I think we can be. So our ears are open, our doors are open. If there's something that you'd like to see, something you'd like to see us do different, please let us know, because the volunteer board of directors and the employees, we have 5 full-time employees and the rest are all part-time employees. It's a dedicated group of staff and a dedicated group of donors. You've probably heard over the last 18 to 24 months, we've really started to amp up our campaign to preserve the future of the center. So we started off with $350,000 from Wayne and Nan Kucerik. Grateful for them, and that really springboard. We were able to reinvest in our events and our event center, and we've tripled the number of weddings just this year that we've had last year. So the momentum is starting to grow. So I'm here to tell you that this convention center, the momentum is there. We're still working our tails off on fundraising. But if you look at the statement of operations, you can see that we're covering our nuts. We're covering it.
Okay. Thanks, Russ. And one of the other things that I really appreciated about it as well is that you can walk in there any day and really see the usage. You have 2 food entrepreneurs with restaurants in there 5 days a week. The boardroom is utilized quite often and by local boards. The Art Association is in there, and there's always something, a hub of activity there that also impacts all of those other public spaces as well.
I'll also tell you, Mayor, not to interrupt you, but we are the home of the Fairfield Media Center.
Right.
And the Convention and Visitors Bureau both have their offices there, so.
Right. So it's a well-utilized facility, and the management that you've been doing and the success of the events is something that we all appreciate, because you have made it work for why we made this kind of investment in our downtown, to have a real foundational signature a building that really points to the future and what's possible here, and it also represents the, as you say, the creative arts within our community. Council, any questions for Rustin at this time? Okay. Rustin, thanks for your report. We really appreciate it. I'd entertain a motion then to accept the report of the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center.
So moved.
Moved by Hamilton,
Second.
second by Gandy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Okay, thank you. And board, thank you for attending tonight. We appreciate it. Next, we have Alex Potter with McClure Engineering, gives an update on our treatment plant, and then we have a little business following that.
Thank you very much for letting me come again. I've seen you a lot recently.
It's okay. We want to.
So I guess the last month or so at the wastewater plant, you've probably seen a lot of things differently if you've been by there. Recently, the contractor just finished installing the last bit of panels for the glass line steel tank. So if you drive by on 34, you can see the second digester tank that's currently fully constructed vertically. Right now, they're working on installing the equipment, the pumps, et cetera, inside the tank. So some of that interior work you can't see, but that's one of the things that might catch your eye if you're driving by. Just a couple of days ago, we had a progress meeting, and the day before that, the contractor poured, I think, a total of about 400 cubic yards of concrete, which is a whole lot. They finished the north half of the oxidation ditch base slab, as well as started the concrete work on the UV disinfection structure, which is the last remaining structure yet to have concrete. A couple other items recently, the oxidation ditch splitter structure is now up and out of the ground. And like I said, the UV structures. So all structures have been started. Another major focus on site has been the 36-inch pipe from the Headworks building to the oxidation ditch splitter structure. If you try to go to the treatment plant, to the office, the way you normally would, you'd have a little bit of difficulty right now because it's kind of torn up. So we've been working closely with Sean and his staff to try to mitigate that and allow them access as best as they can, given where we are in the project. Another kind of interesting thing happening, so electrically, contractors installed a lot of duct banks in the various areas around the buildings and then kind of the site piping. The electrical equipment deliveries, those are starting to begin now. I think we should have had some SCADA panels delivered this week, and as well as the automatic transfer switch. And the contractor is going to be starting with interior conduit and wiring in the various buildings here shortly. The big ticket item, the generator, is, I guess, back ordered, but is intending to be here at the beginning of February as well. But prior to that, the influent stormwater pumping building will be basically complete when that generator gets here. And I don't think they've happened quite yet this week, but the screw pumps are going to be installed and turned into place very soon, which would be a pretty exciting thing to watch. I don't know if we can get Mel out there to take a Facebook video or something.
Just remind me.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's good progress in terms of that. Other than that, I mean, things are going along pretty well. We working with the contractor to accelerate the electrical schedule as much as we can, because that's really what's, if anything, is lagging behind what's holding us back at this point. But other than that, work is going on pretty quick, and it should be continuing relatively strong, aside from a couple weeks here around Christmas and New Year's throughout the winter.
Okay. Very good. We've had some great construction weather lately, so hopefully that'll continue as well.
Yep.
Good.
Thank you. Any specific questions for Alex on progress, council? If not, then we'll move to our first item of business, which is consideration of the final completion of wastewater treatment plant bid package number 2. And we have that document. Alex, if you could tell us what we're looking to approve here.
Yep. So this is the statement of final completion and the owner's acceptance of the work. So by approving this motion, you would consider the project fully complete. The bid package 2 work has been fully completed here for about a month or so. This is just kind of the last paperwork item we have to do to get that project closed out. We've received the statements from the owner or the contractor surety. They've paid everybody, so and have released all claims against the city. That said, the total cost for this portion of the work comes to $1,089,597.44, which I have my numbers here, is about $160,000 less than the as-bid amount. And some of that was removed with the change we made at the very beginning of the project, but we were able to stay within a pretty tight budget as we went through this total project.
Okay, terrific. Any questions, council? Now entertain a motion to approve the final bid package.
Move to approve.
Moved by Hamilton.
Second.
Second by Thompson. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, council will set public hearing for the drawings, specifications, and contract for City Hall accessibility project. We're going to get an update on that later from Melanie, but we'll just go ahead and set the public hearing for the approval of those. So entertain a motion to approve January 14th for the meeting.
Motion approved.
Moved by Anderson, second by Gandy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign? Thank you. What happened? I heard a voice.
Second.
I heard your voice second. All right, that does happen. Next, we have a resolution for the consideration of installation. Oh, I'm sorry, we've got tax abatement. First, tax abatement application. And council, this is coming back to you. Project by Ira Rafael at 2067 Libertyville Road. We had discussion with Mr. Rafael at the time about what to include in the value of the project, but as it really turns out, it's all based on valuation that's done post-project anyway, so you're essentially just approving the tax abatement application. So entertain a motion to approve the tax abatement application.
So moved.
Moved by Gandy,
Second.
second by Rasmussen. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. The next, council, we have a resolution for the installation of streetlights. I get excited about this because I thought Aaron was bringing us something about our 55 lights that we're doing in our downtown, but these are three that are spread out across the community. So,
Is this one of the ones we talked about?
Aaron, any comments about the placement of these particular lights? Or
The one was a request through the Public Safety Committee on, do you remember what street? Behind Traffic's is where the one is.
Jackson.
Jackson.
And then we, per our developers agreement for neighborhood builders at Court and Lincoln, we're putting in a street light there at that intersection. We've also had a request by the hospital to put a street light there near their Libertyville road access. So those are the three locations for street lights.
Okay, thank you, council. I entertain a
not
motion
50.
to approve the resolution for installation. Moved by Anderson,
Second.
second by Thompson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Now, council, next we have a resolution for no parking. Michael, I'll turn this over to you.
Well, it's not so simple. We brought this to the council last week, and between that meeting, not last week, it was 3 weeks ago, last meeting, between then and now, I met with Chad Hall, who is here tonight. It's one of the owners and operators of the business in the red building there on the right. Found out that the side parking that we thought was available for them is used for deliveries, as you can see here, and would not want to take that away because then those trucks would just be parking in the street, blocking off that entire lane of traffic on Grimes. So the side parking we thought was available to them is not, and Jason, if you scroll down, you can look at the back as well. It's a much smaller space. See that red car? From there to the right is private property, so their actual back lot is relatively small and used to get, to move materials in and out of those garage doors, that big garage door there and the white one. So I would like this to come back to committee and discuss another alternative solution, taking away a couple of the spots in the front. Maybe instead of taking all of them away, we take away 2 on the west side and take away the 2 on the east side that aren't maybe as important. So that's just an idea. I don't know, Chad, if you want to come up and say anything else, but really wasn't so simple after all. We really thought, hey, just park on the side. I was glad to meet Chad on site, go over all this together, and just feel like there may be another solution out there that's a bit of a compromise that does allow some of the parking spaces to remain for their employees, but also takes into account the sight lines that we're having issues with, and also the bottleneck. We were only there outside for maybe 20 minutes and witnessed that bottleneck occur when there are cars parked on both sides of 4th Street in front of their building. The street actually narrows. It's much wider towards the tracks, and then it narrows. So I think there is a solution. The way that the parking is striped right now also is quite a bit from the corner at Hempstead. We think maybe there's room for maybe moving it a little bit further south. But I'd just like to take this back to committee.
Okay, so we'll do no action tonight on the proposed resolution.
No, just like
so
to table it.
Okay, then move on to our next item, which is consideration of CMT Engineering Amendment Number 1 for our taxiway Phase 1 project. Melanie?
Hi. Excuse me. This amendment is for an amount of $4,150, or I should say not to exceed amount. The Phase 2, I believe a contract was brought to you at the last meeting. Phase 1 was bid this summer. The bids came in higher than expected. A lot of it was due to some confusion as far as when the federal regulations apply and when they don't. It was kind of a tight bidding. It was during a tight bidding season as well. So CMT's recommendation that Bob and I agree with is to rebid the Phase 1 at the same time as we bid this Phase 2 in hopes to get better bids. Whether it's the same bidder or not, it allows for some factor of scale. So this amendment is for CMT to rebid Phase 1.
Okay. Council, any questions for Melanie at this time? So it would be an increase up not to exceed $4,150. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Anderson, second by Hamilton. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And the next item then would be consideration of a new 3-year contract with CMT, who has been the airport engineer for many years. And you have a schedule, you have the contract and a schedule of fees. Anything that you want to point out there, Melanie?
The amount that's written in the agreement is a not to exceed of $15,000. However, the way that we have done this kind of general work with them is we will request,
Services.
Please fill out this form or do this, and they will often give us an estimate of the cost at that time. So that's how we keep track of the small items and paperwork, FAA paperwork that they're doing for the city.
Yeah, and this is a group that really has provided a lot of great service to the airport over the years. Really know the federal law quite well. They really keep us abreast of all the opportunities that we have, and they've essentially helped us build what we have out there now. So,
one of the most recent things that we used the general services for was some additional federal funding came out, and so they helped with the 4-page application to request some additional funding. We don't know if we got it, but that's the kind of things that they keep track of that we wouldn't
Yes.
have any idea that it was out there without them keeping track of those. So.
exactly. Great. On those recommendation, entertain a motion then to approve the 3-year general services agreement with CMT.
So moved.
Moved by Thompson.
Second.
Second by Rasmussen. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Thompson?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so the next item is essentially something we do on an annual basis, and this is to support the regional planning affiliation, the RPA 15. This is the Area 15 housed group that essentially does a lot of the work for us in terms of our access to federal highway dollars along with other services. So the amount is on a per capita basis. And I'm just going to open up my get that amount. So let's see. So the amount that you're, well, that's actually, they're giving us a lot of history here. What is their approved amount for this time? It's not the 100, I think it's,
Not the 1757?
yeah, it's,
Normal.
yes, that's what you're asking to approve, and I wasn't sure whether that was tied to a specific project as a local match, but it sounds like that's essentially what the number is. So the approval, the amount that you're going to approve then is $1,757.
Move to approve.
Moved by Rasmussen to approve,
Second.
second by Gandy. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Next, council, we have a public hearing on the authorization of a loan agreement and assurance of borrowing in sewer revenue capital loan notes, $12,125,000. Mel, if you'd come up before we open the public hearing and tell the council what they're borrowing up for.
This is for the Step 2 sanitary sewer conveyance, which goes from Lamson Woods following Crow Creek up to MUM, approximately 7 miles. The budget for this project is currently at $11,700,000. However, in auditing some of the books and related to an earlier planning and design loan that the city took out, we've found about $200,000 of additional engineering. At the time that we set this amount for $12,125,000, we didn't know how much we needed to still pay off on the P&D loan. So we did provide ourselves, the number is a not to exceed amount, with the hopes and the intent that the number will be lower once the Step 2 bids come in. We've talked with USDA, and as far as the letter of conditions, for final funding, we've started that discussion, but this is for the interim financing.
Correct.
So.
Correct. And what is our timeline? What is the bridge time between this and the money that USDA would eventually loan? Or it depends on the
Yeah.
length of the preparation of the project?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I believe
18
the
months.
construction schedule is about 18 months. We're looking, it'll be after April that this project is bid, depending on how the condemnation hearings go. And so it'll be January of 22 that we'd be closing out this. Becca's, that's a long time from now, but
Okay.
yeah.
All right, thank you, Mel.
4 years?
So we'll open the public hearing at this time and ask if there is anyone who would like to comment on the proposed borrowing. Not seeing it, we'll close the public hearing at this time, and council on that recommendation entertain a motion to approve the resolution for a loan agreement for the issuance not to exceed $12,125,000 in sewer revenue capital loan notes.
Move to approve.
Moved by Hamilton,
Second.
second by Thompson. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
A lot of money tonight. There's got to be some kind of a record. I'm going to add this up.
Who moved to approve that?
I did, I was going to say, yes, yes, exactly. Well, he's not going to be here, but he was here in the beginning, so he's making the motion with full confidence that the project's on good footing.
Yes.
All right. That ends our business section. Council, in my report tonight, I wanted to bring up, I've been hearing some feedback over the last couple of months from the community about our animal ordinance and the situation with animals that are off running in the public, in the category of some of the dangerous breeds that we have within our animal ordinance. There was an incident where there was an animal that attacked another animal, and the owner, trying to intervene, whose dog was on a leash, broke his hand trying to restrain. There have been a number of incidents like that, and I think we've had some conversations with Chief Thomas about this as well, and I think that there's kind of a lack of information in the community about what the levels of responsibility are for pet owners, and particularly people who own animals in that classification of larger or more dangerous breeds. We also have, I think, some inconsistencies in our ordinance in terms of what the responsibility is for our police department in this regard, in terms of picking up animals, the responsibility to the owner, and I just feel it's an area that needs some fresh eyes and a review. So I wanted to ask Public Safety if in the next year you would.
We felt it coming. We knew it was headed.
How about the next meeting?
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, just in the next year, convene a meeting. I think there are citizens in the community that are willing to help with this in any way that they can, whether that's working with the police department, working with other pet owners. We've had a real drop-off in dog registrations over the years, and Chief and I were discussing that, and when we had a part-time animal control officer, if he was called to a situation, he could alert the owner that the animal is not registered and give them some period of time to have the animal registered before citing them. We're not providing that service in the community anymore. I don't think a lot of people are aware of what it is, and I think there are some dangerous situations out there. So I wanted to just bring that up. I can give you these, Michael, after the meeting, where I highlighted what I think are some of the areas that are inconsistencies in our ordinance language. Some of it, I think, our original ordinance and responsibility for picking up dogs is a little bit different in terms of what we say if it's a dangerous breed. So just making sure that everyone understands what those responsibilities are. And our city attorney is well versed in the ordinance as well, and remembers how
We had 8 months of hearings.
8 months of hearings, exactly, and City Hall was filled a couple of times. We're not looking to do that again per se, but we're looking to, again, just get up to speed and offer a little bit better service to citizens who are concerned about the danger in the community.
And if you could also share, if you have any names of citizens who want to
Sure.
be involved, I'd like to reach out to them.
Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, then we'll move on to committee and board reports. Personnel Committee.
Personnel Committee met back on November 29th to conduct Aaron's one-year review. And I had done personal interviews with all the department heads, and then each council member had been sent a request for input, and the mayor as well. And we sat down with Aaron, and the good news is we'd like to keep him around. So I'll be working with Mr. Morrissey to update his employment agreement. We will be coming to the next meeting with a recommendation for a raise.
Great, thank you, Katie, appreciate that. And congratulations, Aaron. And,
Thank you.
and we're happy with that. Yeah, it's been just a little over a year.
Yeah.
Although, someone in your position gets so fully engaged in everything that we do here, it feels like you've been around a lot longer because you've really learned a lot and provided good leadership. So
It's gone quick.
yeah, very good.
And I just wanted to point out that the family as a whole has done a really great job, getting involved in the community. I know his son's in school and jumped right in and got involved in sports, has made a number of headlines. Mom, Dad, I think, are probably pretty proud of that. Have a son off at the military now, and You guys have done an excellent job at jumping in and joining up with Fairfield.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kate. Appreciate it. Next, we have our department reports and administrative report. We'll start with Melanie, project update.
Well, since it's been about 6 weeks since last time that I gave a project update, tonight is a little bit longer. We have the projects from 2018 wrapping up and next year's projects starting in design. In general, I'll say the projects that have wrapped up that we had in 2018 were successful. And for the most part, they stayed within the overall budget of the project, even though we might have had some overruns and unforeseens, such as the overrun on rock at South Court. That project, the overall project was under budget. So fairly good construction year for 2018. What we have coming up is I've got some water main projects that were listed that were discussed on the radio this morning. The City Hall accessibility project I'll talk about here in a little bit. And really the only item that I wanted to discuss with you that's on the report, unless you have any specific questions, is on the last page, the Highway 1 improvements. This is the widening of Highway 1 and the intersection improvements at Libertyville Road and Highway 1. I've had sending out a request for qualifications on my to-do list for a couple months, and we'll be ready to get that out the door right after the first of the year, with the statements of qualifications due back January 24th, and our committee hopes to have a recommendation to council your first meeting in February. I have asked 3 additional people to join the committee. Myself, I will not be a voting member in this selection. The 3 people that I have asked includes Jessica Ledger-Kalin and Anna Bruin, who will both serve as voting members if acceptable to the council. And a representative of DOT District 5 will also serve as a non-voting member to answer any questions during the process. So that will be how we kick off the first of the year, is sitting through engineering selection. But if there's no questions on the project update, I will move to the accessibility project. The accessibility project is described in the write-up, but there is a schematic of the floor plan included in your packet. Bringing City Hall up to ADA compliance is required with the USDA funding. We knew this with step 1, the very beginning. Luckily, there is some grant money left in the step 1 project, and so that grant money is going to use to pay for these improvements. And most of the work is going to be done in the restrooms, still providing 2 water closets in both bathrooms, but making both of the bathrooms ADA accessible with automatic openers and more water efficient fixtures and things that are both better accessible and more energy efficient. Moving around some storage closets as well, moving the drinking fountain, and providing that at a accessible level. The exterior doors are going to be moved in about a foot and a half to provide the proper clear space between the door and that exterior railing. Easier to move the door than to move the railing. Then also the 2 other major items would be, we're creating a 4th lower station at the very south end of where the billing clerks are, next to Mindy. Whether this is a city employee or a customer that needs or wants to sit down while paying their bills and doing their work, the lower station will be at that sitting level. And then we will have a ramp here in City Hall. I thought about Martha during this project of, it's not necessarily someone who's in a wheelchair. It may just be someone who's had an accident and needs to get up to the council chambers a little bit easier. So we will have a ramp in here, and we'll be discussing maybe moving the podium to one side or the other. But this is the schematic. Because we don't have another meeting until the middle of January, that's why we've set a public hearing on this already. The plans will be available for public viewing shortly after the first of the year. This is a quick timeline, and I've appreciated everything Klingner's done to jump through the USDA hoops to keep this thing moving and hopefully wrapped up right around the end of the fiscal year. While they were in their very initial assessment of this project, they had concerns of the floor beneath the restrooms. Down below the restrooms is a very scary looking vault where we have some records storage. What they discovered is there's about a 2-inch sag in that floor. They do not feel like it's in immediate danger, but they do recommend some repairs, including 2 house jacks, putting those in the basement to provide better support underneath there. Again, I appreciate Klingner. In this short letter, they described the recommendations and the loadings for the jacks, and city crews will be able to do that at a very minimal amount. So we appreciate them finding a cost-effective solution for that to allow us to continue to use the facility. So,
Okay.
unless there's any
questions for Mel on her report? And do you think your construction schedule for some of the improvements here?
April and May will be most of
Okay.
it. We'll bid it in February, figure about a month to get through the paperwork.
Right.
We'll provide more information as far as when we're starting as we get closer. We do intend for the restrooms to be closed to the public, but the billing counter and the rest will remain open as it is.
Okay. Thank you, Melanie. Any other questions? All right. Next, we'll move on to our city administrator report. Aaron.
Budget process is moving along. The department heads have their budget packets. They are supposed to be back by January 11. The mayor and I met with the Civic Center to discuss their lease. We've got a copy of their lease, and we're going to be looking at their lease agreement that was signed 8-9 years ago, I believe. The downtown lighting project, they were requesting a couple locations for a couple lights out in front of the Civic Center. David Vollmer and I have had that discussion, and so we are waiting to get the final bid packet back from them to approve and move forward with that. And the IT project here throughout the city, as far as upgrading our security and infrastructure for our IT projects, is moving forward pretty well, with some minor hiccups getting information from our old IT provider. So that's all I have to.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate that. Our offices will be closed on Monday, December 31st, New Year's Eve at noon.
Yeah, following past practice is what we've done the day before New Year's,
Right.
Christmas, close at noon.
Great. Thank you. And council, before we adjourn, I know in our last meeting, we accepted letter of resignation from the council from Darren Hamilton. But tonight is officially his last meeting, and I'm glad that it was pointed out that Darren did cast the first vote on the another wave of approvals for our sewage treatment work in all phases, because he was really a big part of bringing our city to the point of recognizing that something has to be done now. Outside of the orders that we were receiving from the DNR, it was really your impetus. And that's one of the really great rewards of being a council member, is that you're on one committee that's quiet for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden a big project comes along, and and it's something that really becomes something that you can contribute significantly to and take ownership of, and we're really appreciative of all the early work that you did on that project in particular, But, Darren, you've always served yourself so well as as a fair council member and someone that really takes the spirit of representing people very, in the right way. And I think all of your constituents in the Fifth Ward have always felt that way about your representation, and all of the fellow council members that you've worked with over the years. So thank you for your service and all of the great things that you've done here and being part of our team.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Council, and we'd like to present you with a key to the city.
The ones you found in the closet here?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, council, if there isn't any other business before the council, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn and say.
To adjourn.
Okay, moved by Hamilton to adjourn. Who's going to be that? Who's going to take that one up? Second? Second by Rasmussen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.